as a slightly insecure 19-year-old me, I really liked the validation. Views went from the hundreds to the thousands to the hundreds of thousands and then eventually to the millions. I was shook. You can be climbing up a ladder fast, but if you're going up the wrong wall, then it's not the right direction. Your gift isn't guaranteed. It can go away at any moment. You never know when life might, take what you love doing most. And thinking about that makes me so sad, but also inspired to go forth and create as much as I can with the limited time that I have. The most helpful thing that I have found to help me rebuild my relationship with music and just creativity in general is just my name is AMEER. I create YouTube videos. I make music. I teach as well. And it's kind of, I find myself at the intersection of those three things. And I'm classmates with these beautiful, beautiful people here on Linden Mall at Berklee College of Music.
We're going straight into it.
Sure.
AMEER, what does creativity mean to you?
Ooh.
And who are you as an artist?
That is a good question. We're just getting right into it. Okay. Creativity. Creativity, to me, is a process of exploration, going into the unknown and seeing what you find along the way. And to me, I see myself as an artist. I see myself as a creator. I see myself as a teacher. But ultimately, I see myself as just someone who's going straight into the unknown, picking things up, learning things, and sharing them, and sharing what I find along the way. That's me.
That's beautiful. I absolutely love that. Exploring the unknown is absolutely what creativity is, right? Without the unknown, there would be no creativity.
Mm-hmm. Totally. It's all uncertainty and it's all unknown. And I think that's the part that I love about it the most, is that you never know exactly how something's going to turn out when you're just starting a project.
Why do you do it? Why do you create? And what is your purpose?
Totally. Well, wow, that is a fantastic question. I think it all is part of like my overarching mission, which is to live a joyful, meaningful, and present life, inspiring and empowering others to be their best selves. And creativity is just something that is, first of all, it's just so fun. It is the lifeblood of everything that I do, and I derive just so much enjoyment by bringing creativity into all of those different things. To me, creativity, why do I do what I do? It's just fun. I don't think there needs to be too much of a justification for enjoying oneself. I think before, I used to really put a lot of pressure on myself to define exactly the purpose behind what am I doing, exactly why am I creating this? Why am I having fun in this moment? But I've kind of realized that I don't need to justify that to myself anymore. I can just have fun and enjoy it. Life is short, and I'm going to do something that's enjoyable, at least something that's enjoyable, helps others, not hurt people along the way. That's the goal.
Have you always felt that way? Because let's, for our audience to understand you better, let's take a look and go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
You being AMEER of 11 years old, 10 years old, did you feel that way about creativity? Did you feel that way about, what were your dreams? What did you feel?
Ooh. Let me see if I can remember. That's like middle school. That's like deep
I
cut.
mean,
That's
not
like
11 years old, 10,
like
9,
deep
whatever.
cringe.
Yeah, go back.
Okay, let me go back to the cringy years, y'all, when I was chubby and I had Justin Bieber bangs.
We got to pull up a picture of that.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I am. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. Here you go. Proof that time helps us all. Anyways, did I always feel that way? Yeah, I'd say so. Music has always been a part of my life. I grew up playing piano at the age of 4, like every good little Asian boy. Y'all know the vibes. I started playing piano at the age of 4, picked up the guitar at 10, and was singing the entire time along the way. And there has never been a doubt in my mind that I wanted to do something creative with my life. Now, thankfully, I had the privilege of doing so with parents that were as supportive and believed in me as much as mine did, and really nurtured that creativity. And so I'm just a byproduct of really good parenting and just good surroundings and good friends and just luck. That's what it is.
It's beautiful. Not many people credit that kind of creativity towards their upbringing. Like there's this idea that creativity is born, like you're born with it or it's nurtured. But I really love how you just did that.
Yeah, because we're all a byproduct of our environments, and I'm just glad that I was lucky enough to be born in an environment where I was allowed to be creative, where I was allowed to do those things. And I'm just gonna take that and run with it as far as I can.
Speaking of, you create in so many different mediums, so many avenues. I mean, you have music, you have your videos, short form content, all of these different ways to communicate your message. If you could only choose one of them to convey this message of inspiring and empowering others for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Videos.
Why?
Wow.
Videos. Well, the proof is in the pudding right here. I feel like with this medium, you can transmit a message very directly, right? You can transmit a message very directly that spans. You can transmit a message very directly, and with the power of the internet, you have infinite leverage, and you can distribute that and broadcast that to so many people. It is a fantastic vehicle for just spreading a message, which has its pros and its cons because it's great at spreading messages, but what kind of messages are we spreading? Yeah, I would choose that partially too because that's probably just informed by what I'm most passionate about right now, what I'm literally working on. Like before coming here, like the night before, I was like staying up till 3 a.m. editing a video, and I will continue to do that tonight because I need to finish up another video. But yeah, that's what I would choose. And the reason I probably might not do something music related, I mean, okay, it's not like I hate making music, y'all. Like I still make music. Like that's fun. But I find that music is a lot more abstract, which is great in many regards, in the sense that it can span cultural walls. It can like span so many differences of language, of culture, everything, which is helpful in certain contexts. But I find with video, at least for the message that I share and with the medium that I feel like I communicate myself best, I would have to stick with that.
Fascinating. How do you feel about the possibility of having your messages misinterpreted?
Well,
have you thought about that?
well, I hope no one clips this podcast. And I mean, hey, go for it if you want. Just don't. That was a joke. That was a joke. Please don't. Well, that's a great question. I don't know how to control that. That's like such a new problem that I don't know how to face. Don't know how to deal with. Like misinterpretation is. I don't know how to deal with that. All I think that I can do is just let my actions speak for themselves, show up as a person of integrity to the best of my ability. Once again, just be a good person, not hurt people along the way, and just be kind. And I hope that that is enough to speak for itself. As for the rest, I don't know. I don't know. It's a challenging circumstance. Like for you guys, how do you as people who also produce podcasts and put clips out onto the internet, how do you guys navigate that? And what has your experience been like with this, since you guys are just starting to get into the podcast realm and starting to post clips? What has that experience been like for each of you?
Oh shit.
Okay. I didn't expect to answer questions here. It's our podcast. We
This is a
we
conversation.
questioned you. Oh my God.
This is a conversation. I'm here with
I
y'all.
love that.
Helen, go ahead. I'm thinking.
I'm also thinking. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think we have enough of like a sample size to really determine, okay, like how do we need to, edit this video in order to make it resonate with the right people and have it, like make it like, distinct and clear in its message enough that it won't be taken out of context. But the thing is that like context always matters. Like who we are, our background, why we do this, all of that, if you remove that context, like, yeah, I think that in the future, there's definitely the possibility of just someone taking a clip, rolling it out, and having our message be misinterpreted, right? And so that's also a new challenge with short form content, which hasn't really been a thing until like a few years ago. And so this is definitely a strange challenge to navigate. And yeah, I don't know what we're going to do about it, honestly.
For me, there's different sides to it. Like, I agree with you with the short form content. It's kind of hard to predict what people are gonna use your content for and how they're gonna um make you look on the internet. But with AI stuff, like,
Mm-hmm.
why would you even care? Because you have so many deep fakes, and
Mm-hmm.
why would you care about misinterpretation of your ideas or you as a human being or something? Like, hate is gonna hate. Hate is gonna always find ways to misinterpret your information, and um, I try not to think about it a lot. I like again, we just started the podcast thing,
Right.
and we'll see how it goes.
Mhm.
And even if people will um get our information in a different way, it's still good. It's still promotion. Like it's dark promotion, right? Like if I say something bad, it will go viral. Will be popular, not for the best reasons, but still.
Don't
So
clip that, y'all.
yeah,
Yeah.
clip that
Don't
right
clip
now.
that. Don't.
That reminds me of a really beautiful quote that I heard, I think maybe from Diary of a CEO,
hmm
but it's about control, right? We have this idea that we can control the things that happen to us and like predict, oh, like we're going to do this thing and that's going to result in this result. But that's really just an illusion, right? The things that happen, the way that we think about them, like the way that we predict they're going to happen, that's just a coincidence. And that's just pattern recognition. But ultimately, the chance of that pattern being upset is like based on entropy that's going to happen. And so I think practically at this stage, just keep going. There's not really much you can do to control it. So just be mindful, but that's about it.
Word.
Yeah, definitely. Being mindful is important. Yeah.
I love that. Moving on. Ooh, I like this one. In your video about creative burnout, which we
Damn,
both
y'all did your
love.
research.
We did
course.
yesterday for 2 hours
Yeah.
at least.
In your video about creative burnout, you talk about how creative burnout has negatively impacted your desire to make music in the past, right? And that's why you've directed much of your creative attention to YouTube and making videos. What would your Facebook relationship status with music be? And are you happy
I
with
told you
this
controversial
current
questions in the
relationship?
beginning. I told you right
That is
away.
so funny. Oh, I'm dead, y'all. Okay. Okay, so for context, viewers, y'all don't have context. So I've been making music for basically like my entire life, and in 2020 went through a little bit of an identity shift. I wouldn't call it an identity crisis, but more so an identity shift, in the sense that I found myself not gravitating towards music as strongly as I used to before, and I think that was a result of 2020 just being. Am I allowed to swear on the podcast or no?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, go
Okay,
for it.
okay, sure.
Whatever.
2020 just being like genuine shit. 2020. We're gonna edit that. Okay.
No.
It just okay. Cool. Perfect. Yeah. Anyways, what I was saying, and I think that's part and parcel because 2020 was just general shit. But also because I was just changing as a person. I was posting on TikTok a lot, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. And I just found myself viewing music less as an outlet for an expression, and more so just as a job. And I think once you start getting into that territory, then it's very, very easy for burnout to pop up. And so to answer your question, what would my relationship status be? I would still say married. Like
Yeah.
right now, I'm like married to music. Um, yeah, I would still say I'm married to music.
How do you feel about that?
I would say every marriage has its ups and downs, and it's a matter of commitment to navigate it and make it through. And so when it comes to my relationship with music, if I'm using this metaphor of, Facebook being Facebook status, Facebook relationship status, I would say I'm part of, I am one half of a very standard marriage with music. I am choosing every day to love it. I'm choosing every day to show up and do it, because once again, love is a verb. Love requires action. And so I'm choosing to show up every day and just create and just enjoy myself in the process. I'm learning to think less about it, as I mentioned before, not having to justify so much. It's like, hey, I enjoy this. Life is short. I get to create music, bring people together, have a good time, connect with other human beings. Once again, just being kind and not hurting people along the way is to the best of my ability. I just hope to continue doing that with music, no matter what my relationship status might be.
That's beautiful. You've talked about, you've touched on this transition from music being, something that you created for fun as a 11-year-old AMEER,
Mhm.
and then how that slowly progressed into it becoming a job, and then trying to rekindle that relationship.
Mhm.
Where do you see that going in the future? Are you going to go to relationship counseling? Like, where do you stand on that?
Oh, that's a funny question. Relationship counseling. I have talked to my therapist about my relationship with music, so if that counts, then that's something.
Love that.
Music will always be a part of my life. At least I would like to think so. I think it's just so deeply ingrained in everything that I do. I even approach making videos like I make music. Um, the way that I approach cooking, the way that I approach just in general life, I view things pretty musically. And so I always see it being there. I think it's just communication to me. I think over time, okay, well, to be completely honest, I do wish that I could be that younger AMEER that was fully into music, because there was a certain energy to that. There was a certain recklessness, a certain naivete, and a certain abandon with which I threw myself into the craft. And I'm so glad that I had those years that I got to do it. I still love music, but I also do wish I still had that childlike playfulness. And I think that's the big thing that I need to remind myself, and I'm even remembering as I'm saying it to y'all. There's a reason it's called playing music, and I think once we start losing sight of the play aspect, and then it starts becoming work, and then it starts becoming something that you're paid for, and then it becomes something that you go to school for, that you get graded on, that you get evaluated on, it's very difficult to retain that playful mindset. But I think the most helpful thing that I have found to help me rebuild my relationship with music and just creativity in general is just approaching it like play. Remembering that, we get to play an instrument. It's not work an instrument, it's play, you know?
I really resonate with that, and I guess many of the viewers will as well, because most of the viewers are Berkeley students, right? And for me, before coming to Berkeley, I approached music the same way as I get to play instrument. That's cool, and I don't I didn't try to compare myself to other people, and I was just enjoying and having fun. And after coming to Berkeley, and my first semester, it was kind of the same, but then it was just went down because you get graded on that. Um, you start to compare yourself to other musicians around Berkeley environment, um, and you get paid for some of the stuff you do. And now that you have more pressure and deadlines and more and more and more things that kind of limit your creativity and limit your artistry in a way. And for me, it was super complicated to understand how to work to that. Like, just as you were saying, understanding that it's just a it's a play, so you gotta just play and enjoy it.
Mhm.
Like, it's great to understand it. It's easy to understand in theory, but for me, like, subconsciously, I was like, I kind of don't want to do it anymore. It's like, why would I even want to do it if there is so many challenges in this? Like, it was so fun and easy before Berkeley. Why would it be? Why would I want to do it now, right? So, and then what helped me a lot was, now that music became at Berkeley my kind of work thing, I try to find something else to engage with, any hobbies, because hobbies before Berkeley, music was my hobby, and now it's my work.
Mhm.
And so I trying to find something else to call a hobby, to name a hobby. And I got into video, got into like different aspects of sport, and like um, tried some painting and stuff. And after some time, I realized that if I took a break from music for like a month and tried myself in different um, arts and different hobbies, and after a month, I kind of recharged and came back to music as fresh as they can go and they can be, and I found myself very peaceful and still loving music. Yeah.
That's a very practical strategy. Like, I was just thinking in the back of my head, like, is that sort of relationship? Because I resonate with what both of you said as well. Like, growing up classically trained, that,
Yeah, let's
yeah.
go classical piano.
You get it. Like, there's your relationship is like not great from the start. And over time, as you're trying to like, change things, it just doesn't want to change. And eventually you're in the place that I'm at right now. And I'm just thinking, like, is that even salvageable? Like, does there come a certain point where your creativity within a certain creative act has been mangled so much that you have to find a different kind of outlet to express that creativity? What do you think?
Well, my question is, how does one salvage a relationship?
Talk to it.
Yeah, how, like, if one is in a relationship that needs salvaging, if there's, friendship issues, partner issues, like those kinds of things, how would you say a relationship is saved?
Yeah, talk about it is the main thing, definitely.
Yeah,
'Cause-
communicate. Right? What do you think?
I think learning to one thing I've read a lot in just, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's related if we're talking about like relationships with creativity. Rediscovering friendship is really, really important for relationships, at least with, me and my partner, or, other relationships that I've seen. There's a strong foundation of friendship, which I can extrapolate to creativity as a strong foundation of playfulness. There's a playfulness, there's an enjoyment. You guys like being around each other. It's fun. It's easy. You're not thinking too much about it. And so I think that is one step that could be helpful, for people to take to perhaps salvage that relationship with creativity. Simply learning to play again and giving oneself the permission to play. I talk about myself, like giving myself the permission to have fun. It's weird because I'm the type of person who takes things very seriously, which you can probably tell by the way that I talk because I'm such a serious person. But I'm the type of guy who takes things very seriously. Like I want to do well. I want to, be as excellent as I possibly can in my creative pursuits. But I need to constantly remind myself not to let that eclipse the joy of it, because we create for joy first and foremost. We create for joy. We create for the enjoyment of the process, to be able to share that with others. The creative process is inherently just a joyful process, or at least in my mind I think should be a joyful process. And it takes constant effort to remind myself, okay, don't think about it too much, allow yourself to have fun, AMEER. It's weird, but like allow yourself to have fun, kind of thing. Yeah, try not to be too stuck up about the entire music thing is what it is.
It's a very simple concept, but I know for myself, like, I've struggled to actually change my mindset about that. How have you done that?
Music is a meditation. That's my perspective. It's a mindfulness practice.
This is too.
Us being right here, I think it's just learning to be present again and not thinking too much about it. Once you can remove the veil of thoughts, then you see it for what it is. It's organized sound, and somehow our body reacts to it in a visceral way. What a beautiful thing, That's at least how I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm still working on that. But when I try to sit down and create music, I try to approach it with mindfulness and try to treat it like a meditation, and just fully be in the joy of it, to be fully present and enjoy the process. So yeah, that's what I'm working on.
What inspires you?
Life, specifically relationships, specifically conversations like this, specifically getting to know other people, hear their stories, talk to them, and connect. Connection is what inspires me. The connection of going into a concert as an audience member and connecting with, people there who also listen to the same kind of music and like the same artist, being able to share that bond with them. being able to, on the inverse, step out onto a stage and share a connection with your fellow bandmates. You know, you've worked for this, you've rehearsed this. Or if you play jazz, you haven't rehearsed it, and you're just, you know, going into it with a shared, you know, understanding, the shared vocabulary, and also being able to connect with the audience. As a video creator, one of the things that inspires me the most is knowing that my videos are able to make an impact on people's lives. I was talking about this with one of my friends earlier today, but you know, the comments that I get, you know, I receive comments sometimes when people see my videos. So for context for the viewers, back in 2021, I made a video titled "Meeting My Girlfriend for the First Time," where basically I had met my partner in the middle of COVID, and we met online and weren't able to visit each other for like 8-9 months. And I made a video documenting that entire process and meeting for the first time. And, you know, the video is doing pretty well. It's my most viewed video to date. And I get a lot of DMs regularly from people telling me, oh my gosh, I'm about to meet my boyfriend for the first time tomorrow. And your video inspired me and letting me know that I'm not alone in doubting and like thinking about the craziness of this all. And it's just that kind of impact and connection that inspires me. So to sum it all up, I think connection is my inspiration.
I saw the video. It's so beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
resonated with it as well
Thank
because
you.
I was telling you again, like,
Mhm.
I kind of met my girlfriend during the COVID as well,
Mhm.
and we didn't see each other for like 2 years or something, and then we're finally back together, and everything is beautiful.
Woo!
Yeah.
Let's go, Amal.
And yeah, I remembered my story through your video,
Mhm.
and first of all, everyone go check the video out. It's beautiful, and it almost made me cry because I remembered my kind of experience with this. But thank you for all your videos, man.
That means a lot. It really does.
Yeah.
See, that inspires me right there.
Inspiration boost for you.
Oh yeah, thank you. +5.
What about the contrast? Like, what about the opposite of that? I know, like, within, you know, the online space, there's, yeah, of course, there are positive messages, right? But there are also negative ones. What is your relationship with that? Like, do you, you know, when you're browsing through a comment section and you see someone say something that, you know, doesn't resonate with positivity
Mhm.
or just with you, if you will, how do you feel? What is your initial reaction?
I don't check my comments. For that exact reason, I don't read the comments. I don't. I know a lot of creators who also don't do the same thing just because I think as much, okay, to clarify what I said earlier, as much as, you know, compliments and people saying that a video is nice is inspiring, I also need to remind, it's also important to not get caught up into that and make that like a part of your identity, because in my mind, this is not original thinking, but I watched this TED Talk by Elizabeth Gilbert. She's the author of Eat, Pray, Love and Big Magic. She has this analogy of this center, and the center right here is the creative process, the creative act. You know, writing for her or creating videos or music for me. Success or failure, either success or failure, all that it does, failure flings you far out from center, and then you need to do the work to get back to the center of creating. And conversely, what I feel like we don't talk about enough is that success also equally flings you out of that center. They're both equidistant from the center. And there's a reason like success or compliments or positive affirmation or attention can be intoxicating or disorienting because it flings you far from center. And so even if the video does well, people compliment, whatever, I need to remind myself, come back to center. It's not for that purpose, but it's for like the creative act. But of course I'm human. I like when people say nice things about my videos, it's nice, but I need to also remind myself to not take it personally. I think that's one thing that helps me if I were to think about something practical when it comes to like bad comments, because I've received my fair share. Um, I'm just reminded of a book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and one of the agreements, I'm gonna spoil it for y'all. Sorry. One of the agreements is, you know, agreeing to not take things personally. Agreeing to take things personally is essentially agreeing to is essentially agreeing to interpret things in a way that would lend itself to pain. Essentially, everyone's living in their own dream. Everyone's living in their own reality. Other people's perception of you is not the perception of the real you, but it's their internal view of who they think you are, and so they're commenting on that. Just trying to remember that nothing is personal, neither the compliments, neither the praise nor the hate. Nothing is personal. In the center, just remind myself to come back to center. Just create and just show up and work the process.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
There's that one Mark Manson quote that's like, you'll stop caring what other people think of you when you realize how seldom they do.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
100%.
Exactly. The spotlight effect.
My question is mostly about how do you communicate with your audience then if you don't respond to comments?
Yeah, I know. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. I was literally thinking about like asking you to help me with moderation stuff, with asking Holland to help me out with moderation stuff. To do some like research as I get into this next phase of creating. I don't necessarily check comments, but I do check DMs. Please don't DM me anything weird just because I said that. Oh gosh, someone's probably gonna do that. Oh gosh, okay.
I'm going to do it.
Oh shoot. Okay. Gosh. I swear to God, if I see any pics, no. I'm deleting Instagram. Okay. Okay. Anyways, I mean, if you send me something, it's cool, whatever. If you send me something weird, I'll just block. Anyways, yeah, I check DMs. I make sure to post like, question and answer things just so that people can like ask me questions and I get a kind of a good idea of what people are looking for or what people are specifically wondering when they watch my content. I do read the comments like early when I just post a video for like the first hour just to see like general reception, what people are thinking, if there's any issues that arise. I use that as like helpful helpful feedback in the first phases of putting something out there. I also am really grateful to have such a good circle of peers who give me great feedback and let me know exactly what they think or what they're looking for, what they think would be cool. To be surrounded by such awesome creators is really a blessing. And I think their feedback really helps inform me as well.
Adding on to what you said earlier, this has been in my mind for a bit. You achieved, like, speaking of creative centers, if you will, and swaying from that center, you achieved what most would describe as very fast initial success on TikTok. Hitting over...
Six questions.
We're going there. Let's go.
We are.
Straight into it.
And for context, if you want me to repeat the
Go for
numbers
it.
back to you, you hit 100K followers and almost 4 million likes in a matter of months, which is like genuinely very impressive, before deciding to take a step back and prioritize yourself.
Shoot, when you say it like that, I'm like, what the hell? I haven't thought about it like that until you said. I was like, what the? Was that like just from my video? Did I say that?
No,
You did the
researched that. Yeah.
I haven't even done the research on that. When you say it like that, I'm like, damn, I did that. What the?
Yeah. Basically, October
Just gave him the answer
to
right
May.
now.
I mean, yeah, that's
Well,
it's genuinely like that's rocket growth. Now, our questions are twofold. First, looking back, right, retrospectively, what do you think were the main drivers of that success? Because, right, the reality is always more clear when we're looking back.
Luck. The luck of the algorithm, but I think it's luck, but I was also very intentional. The growth was no surprise to me, in the sense that at this point in time, I was making, I don't know, like, I was posting every day, sometimes posting like 4 or 5 times a day, sometimes 9 times a day. Like, I think it was just having as many, as Gary Vaynerchuk says, at bats as possible, just having as many opportunities as possible for luck to find you. And I think probably what it was, I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I don't know what the algorithm did, but I think I just created enough things to have luck work its thing. I remember I had this screenshot. I'm going to see if I can find it, but basically I posted about the follower growth. I'm just finding it here on my phone if y'all are wondering. I posted about it and I was kind of documenting how I grew, and basically here, I'll send you the screenshot so you can put it, but basically what it says here So the caption here says, after 1.5 months and accidentally misspelling my username, and I'm showing a picture here of how I went from 2,019 followers to 40,000 followers in a month and a half.
Mhm.
But the main thing that I wanted to highlight from this is that when I had 2,019 followers, I had 115 videos up. When I had 40,000 followers, I had 286 videos up. So if you do the math, Han, then you can edit yourself doing the math of 286 minus whatever the previous number I said was. That's a lot of videos. I think it was just showing up and having luck work its thing.
Mhm.
But again, I think I legitimately think I was just lucky. Like there are a lot more people who are better creators, I think, who who could have also equally done the same thing.
What made you start posting on TikTok?
It was fun. It was just fun, it's just vibes, man. I didn't think about it too much. And to be honest, my first posts were all just kind of shit posts. I don't know. I was just having fun. I was 18, 19 at the time. Yeah, it was just fun. And the entire time it was fun. It was never like it never felt too much like work. And I enjoyed it to an extent.
Hmm. In your video about it, with the tiny URL on your TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about, you sort of took a step back, right? And you're still in that step back, if you will. Looking back, how did your overall experience with TikTok and with your periods of, like you said, obsessing over, like taking screenshots of the follower counts rising?
I was gonna get to that. Yeah.
But how did that experience affect you? And what did you take away from it? And how, as a whole, how did that affect your direction and your motivation to create?
I would sum it up like this. You can be climbing up a ladder fast, but if you're going up the wrong wall, then it's not the right direction. You can still be moving fast, but going up the wrong wall. So, follower count was increasing, numbers were going up. And I will admit, as a slightly insecure, like 19-year-old me, I really liked the validation of, seeing numbers go up. And I will fully admit that. I'm glad that's not the case anymore. But at the time, I literally just screenshotted every single follower count that like would rise and be like, oh my gosh, 2,000 people followed me today. Wow. And then I'd like post it and be like, look how cool I am. It was so cringe, y'all. It was so cringe. Anyway, so cringe. But sorry, what was your question again? I want to answer it specifically.
How did this experience affect you? And what did you take away from it?
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
I think it goes back to what I said earlier, being like flung out far from center. That's what it is. The more you start to get caught up in the numbers, the more you start to get caught up in performance, being like, oh my gosh, what's the algorithm going to do today? Be like, oh my gosh, how can I follow the trends and all that kind of thing. That flings you further and further out from center. And basically, I was making a lot of posts about music, but I literally was not making music. I was just not making any music. I was a content creator who happened to make content surrounding music, but I wasn't like actually a musician on TikTok. And that's kind of where I started to question things. I'm like, oh, is this actually what I want to be? Do I want to be making memes about being able to identify pitches? Do I want to make memes about me playing TikTok sounds? Do I really want that to be my identity online? I think I can do better than that. Well, okay, wait, let me clarify before someone takes that out of context. I think that wasn't for me. I think I want to do something else other than that. And I was really gravitating towards doing more long form content, things that are meaningful to me, things where I feel like I can have a tangible impact on people and, leave people with things to think about and go back to being an artist. I think that was the big thing for me. I found myself becoming more and more of a content creator, an influencer who happened to make art as opposed to an artist who happens to make content. And when I decided to take a step back and pivot towards doing other things, my main thing was just create art. I see the videos that I make, I see it as just making art, not necessarily content. I just see it as art. That's what it is. Art is anything done for its own sake, and I do it for its own sake, and I love every single part of the process.
Okay, so besides not reading comments, right?
Mhm.
How do you were saying about this creativity being in the middle, and there's failure and success on both
Mhm.
sides. Besides not reading comments, how do you keep yourself in the center? What are the ways that people can keep themselves in the center, this creative center?
Great question. I mean, I don't know what's going to work for other people, so I can only say what I do for myself and okay, this is going to be a little funny to say I'm going to expose myself, but what I do whenever I'm creating like a video or anything like that, I affirm to myself, I say over and over, nobody watches my videos. Nobody watches my videos. Nobody watches my videos. I say that as I'm editing. I'm like, no one watches my videos. No one's going to see this. 0 people are going to view this. I'm like, do I still enjoy doing this even if 0 people are going to see it? Absolutely. I would do this if if I was the only person in the world, I would still do this because I just, love documenting life and being able to, share what I've learned along the way. And would I do this for free? 100%. Yeah, so that's how I do it for myself. It's kind of weird. I'm like, no one watches my videos. I also use this Chrome extension by Matt Diavella called Goodbye Metrics. I use that to hide the metrics in my YouTube videos just because especially when you're just starting out, the analytics don't tell you anything. The analytics don't really tell you anything at all. And so I just turn them off. That being said, though, of course, maybe every now and again, you need to check to make sure how your CTR is doing, your average view duration on a thumbnail. That kind of research is important. But as for, what video does well, what video doesn't, regardless of if a video does well or doesn't do well, I will still try to learn from it to create the best art that I possibly can. And yeah, that's what I do for myself. No one watches my videos. No one watches my videos.
I really love that. The question about if I was only doing this for its own sake and for myself, would I still do it? That's like a really practical and just like clicky way, if you will.
But I want to add on to that. There are times where you're not going to feel that. There's still effort required. Like me, like I don't particularly enjoy. It's not my preference to stay up till 3 finishing an edit. It's not my preference to spend my entire day like sitting down with like a video or a music project tuning vocals in Melodyne or comping, all that kind of stuff. It's not my preference, and there are parts of the process that aren't exactly magical, and I hope it's not. I hope of course viewers understand, it's not this romanticized thing. Like there's still a lot of work that's required, but I'd say, considering positives versus negatives, I'd say the positives outweigh the negatives. I think it's a net positive, and I would do it for myself with that in mind.
With that said, it seems as though this way of creating content, or this way of creating, if you will, right? Asking yourself, okay, is this something that I want to do just for its own sake? Continuing with that, it seems like it's an extension of who you already are, right? That's something that I find a lot of people, including myself, have trouble with, right? We get sidetracked by, whether it be metrics or like a comment or anything like that. How do you know when let me rephrase this. How do you balance making, videos on social media, which in and of itself, right, your view counts are right at the center, even if you have like, extensions, there's always some sort of balance when it comes to, okay, I want to generally create some sort of growth, right? How do you balance that with staying true to yourself?
I think it comes down to identity, not letting the metrics become a part of your identity and not letting it dictate who you are as an artist. I think metrics are useful in the sense that they measure things, but as Mark Manson says, a metric ceases to be a good metric when it becomes the goal. And hence why I try to not let those metrics become a part of who I am as a creator. Like, it doesn't matter how many subscribers I have. It doesn't matter how many people listen to my music. I will still show up and create because I just love, I love creating, and I would do it for myself if I was still the only person. I think it's an issue of identity and letting it calcify into ego is what it is. Ego is the enemy, of course. Ryan Holiday, thank you. We love you. I try not to let those metrics become a part of my identity and instead just use them and see them as what they are. It's just market research. They're just measures to help me figure out, okay, how do I make something more clickable? You know, it's that kind of thing. It has nothing to do with me.
Speaking of, with these, speaking of, I guess, staying true to that identity and not letting it be sidetracked by tech, if you will, recent developments in AI, such as ChatGPT, Jukebox, and others, have sparked conversations all throughout the creative sphere. Right? Some creatives express fears that AI will take over the very act of creation, while others are more optimistic about integrating AI as a tool to help them achieve their creative visions. Now, where do you stand upon this? And how has AI affected your vision for your artistic future?
Totally. I use AI as a tool. Like all of my videos ever since I first discovered ChatGPT, I'm such a huge proponent and user of it as a tool. It is a tool to help create. I find, at least in the way that I use it, it's different for everyone, of course, and I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for my process. It's actually helped me create more and create better. And I think the fundamental thing, and this is, once again, hey, I could be wrong. Feel free to like disagree. And, you know, I'm totally open to discussion, and that's how we all improve. That's how we all learn more from one another. I would say I don't think we're anywhere close, just based off of my research and my understanding, which is limited. I don't think we're anywhere close to having a true general creative intelligence, in the sense that right now it's pattern recognition, you know, data, it's trained on data sets, it creates from that, but it's not, in my mind, AI doesn't have the vision, and ultimately we're still the ones curating, and we're still the quality control because we have the artistic vision for it. It's a tool. The tool doesn't have a vision yet. This is probably going to age really poorly in 100 years or something. But based off of the technology right now, I don't see it disrupting my creative flow too much. I only see it helping as a tool. And even then, once we get to that point, if we do get to that point where, you know, AI can be truly creative, then I think it's, you know, at that point, we're dealing with something else entirely. You know, at that point, if it can be creative on its own, then it's more than what we've created. It's like, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different can of worms, you know?
Talking about vision, though, it's interesting how our mind works in respective to how AI works, right? Our mind works also as algorithms. We use all those references and that serve as the main inspiration for us to create. If I create something, everything comes from some references. It's very hard to create something entirely new, like out of the bat. The same way AI works as well. So it takes all the information, all the references that exist in the world and the internet, in the history of humankind, and it gives you the results that you were asking it. So like it's also collecting references as the same as our mind works. So in this case, when discussing the creative intelligence humans between the AI, I guess what I'm talking about is like kind of addressing your point that creative intelligence is not there yet. But if we discuss how our mind works versus how AI works, it's kind of there or almost there.
I see your point, but I would posit that AI doesn't have so as artists, what we bring to the craft, what we bring to the inputs is a limited perspective. We are not unlimited. We filter things through our own personal experience, and we locally reduce entropy by creating meaning out of the chaos that surrounds us. Whereas with artificial intelligence, it has an unlimited perspective. It doesn't have a limited perspective or life experience that it can draw on. It has every experience. It's everything, everywhere, all at once. And so in that regard, because of the unlimited nature of its perspective, I don't think it can properly, well, I mean, I don't know yet. I don't know. I don't think we're at that point yet, just because it doesn't curate. It doesn't have taste. Like when I ask ChatGPT like what it thinks about something, it says I have no taste. I'm just a text-based AI language model, is what it is. Once again, I could be completely wrong. Like, hey ChatGPT, I love you, man. I could be completely wrong. But I still don't see us being there yet, just because here's the thing. We don't even fully understand how the brain fully works
Right.
yet. We still have a limited perspective. We haven't even perfectly like recreated an amoeba yet,
Yeah.
let alone an entire human brain. And nature, like when you tug on one thing, you end up pulling the entire tapestry with you. Like, oh, okay, yes, just because we can mimic how neurons might theoretically function does not mean, like, we're not taking into account all the various other external stimuli that go into that, like our environments, our upbringing, experience, all those different things. We don't even know how to properly recreate that or explain that just yet. Obviously, I think the way that AI will advance is by understanding ourselves better, um, and in doing so, maybe create something better. You know,
Just,
that's what I see.
yeah, just to add, I guess the problem will occur when we as human beings will insert as much information into AI as possible. Like, just, I know there is this personal assistant AI tool that helps you with like just finding documents in your computer or something like that, right? And it can basically analyze everything that you send to into the chat. Like, you can just write your daily prompts about how you feel. It asks you questions like what happened today and stuff, and you're just writing it down so that it understands you better. And I guess the problem occurs when it understands you the way closer to the way you understand yourself, kind of, because it has so much information about you.
Right.
And it can both help you a lot with like creating ideas and all that stuff, but on the other hand, again, like, you'll have your personal experience and it'll give you everything that you lived through and all the ideas for your, for your creations based on your life. And that's kind of a bit fucked up, but still, I don't know. There's two sides of this argument all the time, and I'm still kind of in the middle trying to understand both, but still using them, of course. I overuse every AI plugin out there. Yeah.
Of course. At the same time, though, adding on to what you just said, at any given moment in time, we have a very narrow view of mind, right? We're not experiencing all of our memories and all of our thoughts at the same time. It's like a very tiny slice of who we are, and that changes moment to moment. And so even if like this assistant had a complete understanding of who you are, it's still, I mean, it wouldn't be experiencing you at this point in time. So that varies, and that's, I mean, to my understanding, like not predictable, right? So I'm with you on this. Like AGI, we got a ways to go, I think. 100%.
Amir, how do you use ChatGPT for your YouTube creation?
Well, I type in hello ChatGPT. Just kidding. I use it to help me with scripting. I use it to help me with my writing. It's mainly the scripting process that I use ChatGPT for. I use it to help me think of frameworks for my stories. I use it to help me. I use the hero's journey framework. Like when it comes to scripting my videos, they are very, very, very intentionally thought out in terms of story structure and format. I'm kind of obsessed with story structure and format. Like I love that stuff. Like 6-act structure, or Save the Cat, or 8-act structure, or 3-act structure, or hero's journey, or all that stuff. I'm obsessed with. And so I use ChatGPT to help me work through those frameworks. Be like, okay, using the hero's journey, how can I craft a story out of this, what I have, this script that I have right here, or this set of footage, and I never I don't copy paste 100%. I will still edit it to be in my voice, just because it literally, in the literal sense of the word, sounds robotic. So I don't just copy paste. I will still curate and put my own mannerisms and my own way of speaking on top of it. But I feel like the ideas I already have the ideas. It's just that ChatGPT is helping to elucidate those ideas for me and bring them forward. And when I see it, it's kind of an inner understanding of, yes, that's what I was thinking inside, but I couldn't put it into words, kind of
That's a
thing.
great point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like
That's
just
how I use it.
having the fundamental idea before going to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And even when it does bring something up, I'm like, oh yeah, right, that was in there. That is something that I was considering, but just didn't verbalize. You know.
Speaking about your creative process and this idea generation, if you will, you've mentioned that your creative method, one of your creative methods, is to base videos on your
Yep.
fears, right?
Mhm.
What are these fears,
Mm.
and how did you learn to understand and become aware of them?
I think the biggest fear is for me is the very is not being accepted. You know, being rejected, being a social outcast. You know, welcome to being human. You know,
Human 101. Yeah.
yeah, humaning 101. Hello, ChatGPT. Thank you for listening to this episode. Today, this is humaning 101. But yeah, I think the biggest one for me is just to be rejected and to not be accepted. And I think the way that I got to know that better was just through journaling and reflection and meditation and just, going to therapy and just doing the inner work. I think it's mainly just, if we want to go there, I think my biggest fear is doing the most that I can and putting in all of the effort and still not being good enough. That's my biggest fear. If I'm being very, very vulnerable, and that's something that I've, talked about with my therapist. I don't feel that as acutely anymore, and I've learned how to deal with that. But, just to share that with you all, I can be afraid that, okay, I'm learning all this stuff about music. I'm learning all this stuff about story structure. I'm learning all these things about, so and so forth, about life, about philosophy. I'm working to improve myself, and it's still not enough. And what good enough is, it's entirely subjective anyways, so it's not like I can define that. And I came to realize that by just journaling and reflecting back on my experiences on being 15, 16 years old and rehearsing a performance for a competition for 6, 7, 8 months, practicing, getting it down, writing the charts myself, organizing a band, and going into this competition and then being eliminated in the first round and still not being good enough, and putting in work into things and still being made fun. It's all those different things. And I don't want this to be a sob story, but that's what I find that it is for me. And I'm glad that that doesn't influence the way that I show up to as big of an extent as it did before. But I will fully admit that a lot of my personal growth pursuits when I was 18 or 19 or, younger were out of inadequacy because I felt like the way I was as I am wasn't good enough. And I wanted to see if I could, let me just learn another phrase or another little cool thing to make myself, more likable and less rejected. And so how that applies to my creative process. I'll speak specifically about the video that I'm doing right now. It'll probably be out by the time that this podcast is out. I am currently working on a video where I learn French in 30 days. And a big fear of mine going into this video is, oh my gosh, people are going to see this and think I'm stupid. I did all this work to prepare and learn this language, but I still floundered and failed at that last conversation. Maybe I just shouldn't post this. And it's because of that fear. I'm like, okay, that means I need to post this. That means I need to move in the direction of growth and put this out because this is something that's important to me. If I wasn't afraid of this, then it means that it's not important to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I try my best to move in the direction of fear. I'm not perfect, of course. But that's how I choosing my videos. I actually have what's called the fire decision matrix. The fire decision matrix when it comes to selecting videos. I came up with this. FIRE. F, fear. That's the first thing that I rank it on. How scared I am of this video. I, interest. How interested am I? R, relevance. Is this relevance to my audience? Is this relevant to the meta? E, effort. Is this going to be easy or is this going to be difficult? You know? And so I use that. I score it on a scale of 1 to 5, weighted, or 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. I forget. It's weighted, and then I choose the one that gets the highest number. I don't use it all the time, but I use it when I'm stuck on deciding which videos to go with.
There is so much in there. Thank you for sharing that. It's wow. Okay. For me, as an aspiring content creator for YouTube, it makes a lot of sense because like even for the first video, I'm already stuck, right? Because there's a lot of ideas to choose from, and it's pretty helpful. Yeah, I'm gonna think about it.
I think you just said something that like everyone on this planet would resonate with. Like I don't mean to speak for the world, but I'm going
You
to.
can be the global
Yeah.
spokesperson,
Ah, yes.
Holland.
There's this quote that stands out to me. If something can be done, it can be done better or worse. By definition, there's always like some sort of metric, like even if it's not like numbers on a spreadsheet, right? There's always, okay, someone can do this better, someone can do this worse, right? And at the same time, like I feel like that's, I don't know if we can ignore that part. Because on the opposite end of that spectrum is the idea that comparison is the thief of joy. And so if you want to create and enjoy creating, right, then that should be your center, right? And so there, it seems to me as though there's like this sliding scale of, okay, I'm gonna choose to ignore everything about what I'm doing, right? And okay, this is just gonna be me versus being more tangible, if you will, or being more grounded, I guess is the word, in reality, in which there are people who can do something better or worse. Not necessarily in like a ranked way, but again, in like a slider sort of way, right? So, where do you stand on that?
There are many, many people who can like edit and film better than me, or talk better than me, or make better music than me. Like, you know, that's just a given. But it's just not a part of my identity. It's just a skill. You know, it has no bearing on my self-worth. That's what it is. You know, just because someone edits a little different than me, because I don't necessarily think it's like, I mean, to be realistic, like I think there is, of course, people who are better, but I think looking out bigger picture, I think it's just that people have different skills or do things in different ways, and I think it's like comparing apples to oranges kind of thing. I think the same way with metrics, because with metrics, you're comparing yourself to yourself and sometimes to other people. With skills, you're comparing yourself to other people. It's comparison either way you put it. And I think when identity starts to get attached to comparison, then it starts to become detrimental. I think, once again, not thinking about it too much is what it is. I think they both coexist already. Both of those things are already coexisting. I think the tension arises when we think that there's an issue between the two instead of letting them just coexist.
Moving along.
Mhm.
In order for that to happen, though, in order for those to coexist, there needs to be, you know, it needs to exist in the first place, right? And so many people today struggle with taking action, right? We're always in that thinking phase, like, oh, we're gonna plan it out and it's gonna be technically like perfect. We're gonna go into Notion and create an entire page about this
Thanks,
database.
Notion. We love you.
I respect Notion.
Oh, really? But it seems that, you know, based on, I mean, just looking at, you know, your YouTube page or TikTok, right? Like you have definitively taken action. And was there ever a period where you were trying to convince yourself to take action, or did that just happen? And how did you learn to do that?
I remember this exact moment. Before I started my YouTube channel, before I bought the camera, before I did everything, the month before, I had sustained an inner ear injury. I was in Muay Thai and I got punched in the side of the head and I couldn't hear out of my right ear. And then also that month, I had developed I had had a slight vocal hemorrhage, and so I couldn't use my voice. So I was silent for a month and I couldn't hear out of my right ear. And that month was probably the most creatively transformative month of my life because I realized, oh my God, what if this never comes back? What if my voice doesn't come back? I mean, I knew it would come, but I was thinking to myself, oh my God, what if my voice doesn't come back? What if my hearing doesn't come back? And I have had bouts of tendonitis before. Oh my gosh, what if what if I get arthritis? And it was in that month, in that moment, it was a pretty low month, I won't lie. I was really not in a good headspace. But it was that month that then reminded me, oh my gosh, your gift isn't guaranteed. It can go away at any moment. Right? You never know when life might, take what you love doing most away from you. And when I think about making videos or my voice or whatever it is, I could lose that tomorrow. I could wake up and suddenly have a disorder or something, an injury, and not be able to create. And thinking about that makes me so sad, but also inspired to go forth and create as much as I can with the limited time that I have, is what it is. And so once my voice and my hearing recovered, I was like, it's time. I need to create as much as I can, get as much as I can out. And it makes me emotional thinking about it. Because when I put that in the context, and this is something I've talked to you guys about, how ever since coming back to school, I haven't been creating as prolifically as I want to be, and how painful that is to me and sad to not be getting out as much as I can. And I think, it's that desire to make the most of this limited time that motivates me to create. It's I don't have all the time in the world. I can say, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, but tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Right? So don't wait. Just create.
Memento mori.
Me and my partner had this talk recently. She asked me, what would you do if you had my skill set and my abilities and stuff? And she was a former Muay Thai champion, so I'm gonna go outside and just beat the shit out of people.
Watch out, y'all! Amal is coming to you.
Joke, of course. No, not a joke.
Yeah.
Don't stand in my way. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
and I asked her, and she was amazed that people have the kind of skill set just to create music and create and play music and play instruments and stuff. And she was like, if I had your skill set, I would not stop creating. Never. I would always sing, play, go and perform everywhere I can and just express myself in that way. What I got from it was, I don't appreciate what I have in terms of my skill set, especially in music. And I really agree with it that that's a gift, really, just to be able to create in so many different industries and different create music, create videos, and all that stuff. And for you, that month changed you in a creative way. For me, that conversation changed me in a very creative way. And it's it's super important to value that, and don't wait, start creating. Yeah, just create.
Stay creative.
Stay creative.
Stay creative.
You've expressed that Naval Ravikant.
We're going there. Okay, let's go.
You knew it would come,
Oh, y'all
Of
did your
course.
research. Oh my God, this is great. This is great.
You've expressed that Naval
Mhm.
is a big inspiration
Mm-hmm.
for the direction you're aiming for in self-growth.
Mm-hmm.
What are your favorite ideas of his?
Oh my God. Okay, so for context, Naval Ravikant is an Indian American business owner, investor, entrepreneur, and basically philosopher. I look up to him a whole bunch. It's kind of a joke amongst me and my friends that I like quote him all the time, that I'm just a walking Naval Ravikant quote book.
You are?
C'est la vie. I would say some of my favorite ideas of his, I think I can segment this into 2 categories: wealth and happiness. Wealth, I'm talking about like building a business or just being successful in the modern world. Some of my favorite ideas that come from that are from his tweet storm, his viral tweet storm, titled How to Get Rich. It's a clickbaity title, but it's actually like really grounded and like first principles and just like really solid logical coherence. It's brilliant. If you're into that stuff, then I highly suggest checking it out. My favorite idea of his is that apply leverage. Okay. Leverage plus specific knowledge plus accountability equals you get what you deserve. Leverage, that can be either permission-based leverage, such as people working for you or people investing in you, giving you capital, or it can be permissionless leverage, such as code and media. Accountability, taking business risks under your own name. So, for example, being like a very famous name, like an Oprah figure or I'm trying to think, or an Obama figure, like those kind of big accountable brands. Like they reap all the rewards and they also take all the losses too as a result of accountability. And then specific knowledge is knowledge that you can't be trained for. It's a combination of your own experiences, your own background, all those things. Applying all those 3 things over a long enough time frame, you get what you deserve, kind of thing. It's not success, but you'll get what you deserve. And then, so that's the wealth part of the equation. And the other part, happiness, one of my favorite ideas that just comes to me off the top of my head, and this is, again, ancient Buddhist wisdom. He says himself that he's not saying anything new. I'm saying that I'm not saying anything new. But to me, this is an exact quote: desire is a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. And so keeping that front and center is how I try to pick and choose my desires. Oftentimes in life when we're suffering, in a state of suffering, it's because we have too many desires. Oh, my coffee is too cold. Oh, this chair is uncomfortable. I wish I was sitting in a Herman Miller. Oh my gosh, why am I in Boston? It's so weird here. I wish I was in New York City. Why can't I get more people to like all those things are unfulfilled desires, and every desire is an axis upon which that we will suffer. And so picking and choosing, it's okay to have a few desires. Like you're a biological creature, like you are meant to go and do things and take action and do things, but be careful not to have too many desires. And I try to keep that front and center. Like I think about, I live with roommates and they're the occasional like, oh, I wish that they would clean this or do, typical roommate things.
Of course.
But I choose, do I want to suffer over this? Is this desire worth having? No. So I will pick one overriding desire, and I'm willing to, suffer over that. But then for the rest, I try to let it go. I'm not perfect at it, but I'll try to let it go.
I'm curious to hear what you think about this one. There's been a lot of buzz lately about the overconsumption of information, right? Like if one can quote like 20, I don't know, book quotes or whatever, right? Condensed knowledge.
Yeah.
And in addition, we're constantly inundated with podcasts, audiobooks, and the sort of hot new thing when it comes to self-development. How have you learned to avoid falling into this information overload trap?
I try not to keep Instagram on my phone. Yeah. I don't read the news. I don't check Instagram very often. I don't have TikTok on my phone. Yeah. That's how I that's how I approach it. I'll download Instagram sometimes to like post things or whatever, and in the process I'll see some things here and there so I don't stay too not updated for too long. Yeah, that's how I approach it, at least. That's just for me. It works differently for different people. But that's how I find that I keep a clear mind. And of course, clear mind, better judgment, better decisions, better outcomes. So that's how I approach it.
When it comes to the information that you choose to get into your brain, right? do you have a system on that you do you have a system that helps you um, analyze information more effective, more efficient?
Hmm.
The reason why I'm asking is that um, with this information overload and especially in like with the trend of self growth, trend of self development, there are so many courses, so many audiobooks, so many books, and even though I'm gonna talk from my perspective, even though I choose to listen to a specific audiobook, right, or choose to read a book, and I try to do it every day, but still, like, after some time, it feels like I've consumed so much, but only small percentage of it is in my head, and only small percentage I use in my life.
Yes. Totally. I get exactly like what you're saying. Same thing. Same thing. You know, there's so much. It's like it's a giant not even a hose, it's like a fire hydrant of information coming at you every day. There's a book actually that specifically helped me with this, Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. I think I recommended it to both of you. Ever since building the Para system, which you can read in the book, ever since working on that system and figuring out something that works for myself, it's been really helping me offload and, as the book suggests, build a second brain that stores those ideas that I can reference. That's been immensely helpful to me. I also think when it comes to the absolute abundance of information that there is, I think it's just a matter of less but better, is what it is. Here comes. Hamlin's been waiting for me to say this. As Naval Ravikant once said,
Yes!
I would rather read the best book 500 times than read 500 books one time. I'd rather read the best books 500 times. So that's how I try to approach it. I've reread the Almanac of Naval Ravikant like 4-5 times now. I've reread The Power of Now like 3 times. I've reread Four Agreements like twice. And I am just also constantly on the search for new books. You know, I bring my ebook reader around with me everywhere, and I try to read wherever I go.
It's beautiful. Continuing with that line of thought, what motivates you to do all of that? Right? Like why do you do it? Like where do you want to be in sort of 10 years?
Totally. If I were to answer this question 4 or 5 years ago, the fake answer would have been because I am always about improving myself. But the real answer is because 18-year-old AMEER was insecure and wanted validation and wanted to be cool and good enough to get people to like him. Nowadays, that's not the case. Like basically like at all. I just want to be the best that I can be is all. And I think, at least in the art that I create, my art is a direct extension of the work that I do on myself as a person. And it's the quality of my art is directly contingent upon the quality of my life. And so I want to live the best life possible, be the best person that I possibly can be in order to A, just live a good life, but then B, also create good art as a result of that. And now I am slowly transitioning from reading for self-improvement to now reading for curiosity, is what it is. I'm no longer like, I think I've read all the self-help classics, like throw them at me. I've probably read them, even the cheesy ones and the ones I do not want to admit that I've read. I'm not answering which ones those are. Anyways, so I've read my fair share of those, and I'm more so now transitioning from that into reading about things that I'm just genuinely intellectually curious about. So science, how the brain works in relation to music, economics, which is really weird for people to think that I'm like, I'm studying economics as a pastime. It's really weird. I'm reading that. I'm studying a lot about mental models, biographies, the biography of Steve Jobs. That's the one I'm reading right now. Yeah, I'm more so reading for intellectual curiosity at this moment in time. Now, going back to your question, why I do this now it's just pursuing curiosity and to be the best that I can be. Genuinely. Now, it's that. Yeah. I think that's what it is.
What advice in terms of consuming information would you give to your 18 years old self?
To be honest, I wouldn't have changed anything. I would have just told him, you don't need to be so angry. That's the main thing. Like, you don't need to be so angry, dude.
If there was one sentence that you could, using some sort of loud
May the force be with you.
You knew it already?
Yeah.
Come on, that's not
There we go.
interesting.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry, continue. I'm a horrible
I
podcast
love
guest.
it. You are
is.
an incredible
So
podcast guest.
toxic.
Thank you.
No, yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Toxic?
Personal. No.
Oh, wow.
I love you. Man. I
Love you too.
If there was one sentence that you could communicate to everyone in the world, what would that be?
There's another dimension to life that exists beyond your thoughts. And you can experience it by just being present. The beauty of life exists beyond your conscious thoughts. And learning to see past them and learning to see... I'm sorry, this isn't one sentence, but
I
I'm
love
going
it.
to
No,
elaborate.
keep going.
Learning to see past the illusions, the egoic self, the mind-made constructs. Learning to see past that is enlightenment.
There's no better place to end off than that. But real quick, where should people go if they want to keep up with what you do?
Well, you can find me anywhere on the internet at AMEER CORRO. That's AMEER CORRO. I'm everywhere that you get the internet. YouTube, Instagram, not TikTok anymore, but any of the main places you can find me there.
Well, everyone, this has been AMEER CORRO, the incredible, the fantastic, the beautiful AMEER CORRO.
Thank you so much for having me.
100%. Thank you guys for listening. And always remember,
Stay creative. I feel it vibrating! Ah! It's vibrating!